Actually, this month, it's just our first anniversary for us. We were joking that we're dreaming electric at that point in time.
Yeah.
There are two cars coming out. It's the 90 as well as the B6.
Mahindra, you still associate with big butch ICE vehicles, the big SUVs. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got these really sleek, modern-looking EVs. How do you rationalize the two ends of the spectrum from a branding point of view?
I think what we've not been afraid of is to say that I'm going to have a polarizing design. Not all my customers will like all my cars.
Yeah.
But as long as you like one of them and you fall in love with it,
Yeah.
we're quite happy with that. One of the things we have seen is folks have done 1,000-kilometer journeys in a day, 800 kilometers in a day.
So the Mahindra XEV 9e is one of our best of 2025. Joining me today to accept the award is Mr. Nalinikanth Gollagunta, CEO of Mahindra. Nal, welcome.
So always a pleasure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the XEV had really high expectations to live up to. What can you tell us post the market launch?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you dial back a year now, actually this month, it's just our first anniversary for us. We were joking that we're dreaming electric at that point in time.
Yeah.
There are two cars coming out. It's the 90 as well as the B6. And really our hypothesis that the EVs didn't really excite the customer at that point in time. You got to put a product which looks exciting. People fall in love with the product.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to take away all the barriers of what an EV is. But first, you have to fall in love with the vehicle.
Yeah.
And with these two vehicles, we're sure we're going to go do that. A year out now, and it's proven out. By the end of this month, we should be at about 35,000 vehicles in the hands of customers. And these are not cars which are in the 10, 15 lakh range. So these are obviously cars with a well-provisioned and the higher end of the spectrum to that extent. So really, customers have really reposed their faith in it, and we are delighted with what we have seen as traction.
So from a brand point of view, because Mahindra you still associate with big butch ICE vehicles, the big SUVs. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got these really sleek, modern-looking EVs. How do you rationalize the two ends of the spectrum from a branding point of view?
Yeah, so we don't really need to. I'll start there, Dhruv. I think the gift that we have gotten from the customers in India is we have segments of customers for all of these.
Right.
And there are some customers who would love to be seen on a Bolero. There's some customers who would love to be seen on a Scorpio Classic.
Yeah.
There's some who love the 700 look and a 90 look to the extent, right?
Yeah.
I think what we have not been afraid of is to say that I'm going to have a polarizing design. Not all my customers will like all my cars.
Yeah.
But as long as you like one of them and you fall in love with it,
Yeah.
we're quite happy with that, right? So that gives us the latitude to kind of do designs which are a little bit edgy, may not be liked by everybody, but there's a segment which goes after it. And that's really what we're trying to do here.
And what about internally within the company? Because both from a product planning point of view, design, development, it really is at two ends of the spectrum. So
Right.
internally, is it a challenge to sort of focus on both ends?
Yeah, so of course, this question probably Velu and Pratap will probably be able to answer it a little better than me, but we have a bit of a design DNA that we always try to follow across the board. One is the looks, we talked about it, turn-on design or head-turning design. Second is power on tap. Whatever we do, it has to be a vehicle which is a powerful vehicle.
Yeah.
Third is the tech has to be top-notch. Fourth is safety. And fifth is sophistication. So we're trying to amp up all these five in that category to that extent.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as we're able to be best in class on these in that specific category, we're good to go from that perspective. So we don't necessarily trying to match all of them at the same level. It's really what category you're on, and you're staying true to the DNA of those five parameters that I talked about.
And from a volumes point of view, because I mean, obviously the best sellers are still the Scorpios and the Thars.
Of course.
Where do the EVs, now that you've had a few months to get a sense of what kind of feedback you're getting from the market, where do you envision it going, let's say in the next year or two?
Yeah, so we operational is about 5,000 volume per month. We're averaging around 4,000 or so, slightly a little bit higher than that. And even at that 4,000, we are at 8% penetration. Our portfolio, if you look at it, 8% of this is e-SUVs right now. And of course, with the new launch, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, we want to take it a little bit more than where we are. My sense is we'll operationalize about 7,000 or 8,000 at this point in time. And that's really where we are headed, at least for the next 12 months. And then we'll see from there what happens. In August, we launched the new IQ platform, which then kind of takes to the next level, but that's about 18 months away.
And now that it's been a few months that you've had these vehicles on the road, like if you just take charging habits, for instance, of the folks who are already driving these cars, how many of that, what percentage of those people would have home charging, for instance? What percentage would rely on a public charging network?
Yeah.
Do you have those kinds of specific things?
Yeah, I do have a few of that. Some of that we're going to be talking in our first anniversary, so let me not leak everything. But about 70-75% of the customers mostly are home charging to that extent. And we see what I would call top-up behavior. So it's like on a daily basis, they're charging 5 to 10% because they're just going out, coming back, and they just need to top it up to that extent. So we see a lot of that happening as well. But the other interesting thing is we're also seeing people taking a long end-to-end drive, what I would call destination charging, which is like, I start from here, I don't charge anywhere along the way, and then I charge at the destination at the end of it. So we can track what happens. And that destination charging could be a 350, 400 kilometer drive. So people are confident that the vehicle is going to hold up to 35, 350, 400 easily. And that ultimately for us is the validation of what we said, that you shouldn't worry about range or finding a charger. And in India, a 350, 400 kilometer drive is, you're talking 7 to 8 hours. You will take a break at some point in time. If you don't, you're anyway going to be at the destination, largely speaking. 95% of the journeys are shorter than that. So that gives us the confidence that it is truly now a mainstream vehicle and you don't need to take compromises to own an EV.
Any other surprises that initial data set has thrown up in terms of usage that you didn't expect or anticipate?
Yeah, no, there's quite a few things that we really liked our customers do. I think one of the things we have seen is folks have done 1,000 kilometer journeys in a day, 800 kilometers in a day, right? And it's not just the range of it, we see that on our ICE vehicles. People who buy our vehicles are people who love adventure, sense of adventure, when they're going from a place to place. They love the journey to that extent. And it's the same that they're able to do on an EV. After the first 200, 300 kilometers, now they have the confidence that I can go do a long trip from Kerala to, I had one customer go from Kerala to Orissa and back because they love driving. So they're now doing it on EV, what they're able to do on ICE. So it's very gratifying to see that.
So when I first drove this car, I was super impressed, both this and the BE6. But one of the things that we were concerned about going in was that there's so much technology built into these cars. Over 1 million lines of code, 30 ECUs, hundreds of suppliers integrated into the Mahindra stack. So the concern was that how would all of that technology integrate and would it be able to integrate reliably? Have you had any niggling issues that you've had to work through in the initial period?
Yeah, so listen, as a category, all of these vehicles are all software-defined vehicles. So in some ways, the hardware is largely mature, even I would say 8 to 10 months before the vehicle comes out to the extent. And really it's that 9 months or so you're spending time kind of honing it. But even after that, I have to tell you, and there's not just us as an OEM, you look at all the different OEMs and look at their quality scores with JD Power publishers. Software is something which is an ongoing process. The interesting thing is the same with your phones. It's not like your phones don't have it. I mean, there's a constant update which happens on the phone. You get new patches coming in. So it's a little bit of how we think about it and what do we do with that. Of course, in a car, we have to make sure that the safety is not compromised, all of those things. So all of that gets taken care of. But at any point in time, there's always going to be a couple of small things we'll have to keep updating and doing it. But that's the nature of the beast that we have.
And in terms of these cars are really fast, right? They're really powerful. One of the things that we notice, because we do this evaluation at the BIC because it's a controlled environment, so one of the things that you notice is that, of course, it gives you full power, instant torque at 0 RPM, being an EV in a straight line. But the minute you have a little bit of steering lock on, the electronics kick in and are quite conservative. Is that deliberate because this is still a bit of a learning curve from a consumer's point of view? Is it conservative to make sure that safety is paramount?
Yeah, no, so it's the latter for sure, right? Folks are still getting used to what the vehicle is capable of doing. And of course, in our testing and all of that stuff, we saw what we have packed in is quite a lot to that extent. So we want to make sure that you don't compromise on safety and you err on being safe if you have to get to that point, right? And so even in terms of the drive modes that we have, the default mode clearly makes sure that you're not going over a certain level There are multiple modes. So until you get to the race mode, you're not totally unleashing the beast. And you don't want a customer to go do that without being fully trained on the vehicle.
Yeah.
So we watch out for that.
In reference to the latest GST regime, we've seen post the introduction of that, the ICE vehicles have gained in percentage share, EVs have dropped a little bit. Does that need to be corrected? Is there something else the government needs to do to really commit to the EV push, or will things work themselves out in the course of time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to it. Obviously, the gap in GST has come down a little bit. The percentage naturally will go down because it's not that the volume of EVs dropped.
Yeah.
It's the denominator, which is the total volumes have gone up because of the GST bump to that extent, right? So we're not necessarily worried on the volumes. I mean, first half, if you look at it, the industry grew 100%, double, right? So we're not as worried overall. My sense is that customers will continue to have choices. Our view is that ICE is not going away. There's going to be a significant portion of customers who still choose an ICE vehicle even 3 years, 5 years down the road. But I want to make sure that the customer who buys an EV doesn't have to compromise on anything just because he's buying an EV.
Yeah.
And that's largely what we have tried to do with these vehicles, right?
Do you have a take on the new CAFE norms and what's the way forward on that front?
Yeah. So I think personally, largely, I do have to put on record that we're really appreciative of what the central government has been doing, and even quite a few of the state governments in terms of road tax waivers and stuff like that, right? So largely the administrative side of things, they've been quite responsive to EVs and they've done very well. So I have to appreciate that. CAFE norms the next set of CAFE norms are in draft mode. So there are discussions going on at this point in time. What's important is that they're clearly putting EV still on top of everything in terms of priority. You'll see in the CAFE norms already come out. Of course, there's a few things we are debating as an industry with the government. SIAM just sent a response to the draft norms as well. So there's always a few things which the industry will go do it. So we'll have those conversations. But at this point in time, we are happy that EV continues to be on top of the pyramid, if I may put it that way, in terms of CAFE norms.
So last time we spoke, I asked you about AI. And you said that a lot of the workshops are using it to translate into local language, things like service manuals. In the last 12 months, what's changed on the use of AI in the industry? Yeah.
So few things. One, a few of these technologies are now largely mainstream. We are doing it on an ongoing basis. We are also picking up some threads of what the insurance industry is using in terms of damage and all of that stuff. And we're using it for two reasons. We are using it for when the vehicle comes into a workshop, just making sure that the vehicle coming in doesn't have any dings and dents, because I don't want the customer to feel that we damaged the vehicle. Second is body shop. We're using it for body shop estimations. Also gives us a new revenue stream for us to work with as well. So we're starting to use this for revenue generating effort. We're also using it for CX. So I would say they're starting to mainstream some of these technologies, which is a good place to be.
Interesting. There's a lot of competition for that second place spot in the Indian market today, between yourselves, between Tata and between Hyundai. How can you cement that spot for yourself?
Yeah, so we have something in the company we look at. We don't want to look over our shoulders. We are focused very much on the customer ahead of us to that extent. So we want to make sure that we have a portfolio which is comprehensive, which continues to be relevant and attractive to the broad set of customers that we serve. Numbers will happen automatically from that perspective. So we're not obsessed about being number 2, number 3, number 4 to the extent. I'm not saying it is not important, but it's an outcome. We would rather focus on the inputs, which is having a portfolio of vehicles which are very, very relevant.
And you've referenced a little bit about what's coming next, but what is your outlook for 2026 and what's the plan?
Yeah, no, so we're very excited. Couple of major launches coming up. Of course, we have the 7-seater EV coming out in about a couple of weeks. We're unveiling that. And after that, we have the 700 refresh, which is coming up as well in about 6 to 8 weeks or so from here. Both are big launches, much awaited in the industry as well. A lot of customers have been asking about it. It'll also be at a point where now we'll have 2 full-size SUVs, 7-seater SUVs out there in the market for a customer to choose between an ICE and an EV to the extent. Of course, they're very different vehicles. There's a Born Electric, which is coming up in 2 weeks. And then if you have the refresh coming up. So we are really excited with these products. Of course, we have minor tweaks coming out rest of the year as well. But these two are going to be the big ones for us.
Well, congratulations on the success of your born electric.
Thank you, Dhruv. Appreciate it.
And thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure.